You're listening to Ed the Concrete Man, the only podcast where cracks get fixed, floors get fancy, and concrete becomes cool. Hosted by Ed Rivas, founder and CEO of Concrete Epoxy by CSI, serving up solid advice and even more solid surfaces across North Dallas. Whether it's your driveway, patio, garage, or mystery slab, we build and beautify concrete, and we've got the trowel marks to prove it.
Moving old concrete isn't just about breaking it up. It's a precise process that ensures a strong, long-lasting replacement. Welcome back, everyone. I'm Sofia Yvette, co-host and producer, back in the studio today with Ed Rivas, founder and CEO of Concrete and Epoxy by CSI. Ed, how's it going today?
It's doing great, Sophia. How about you?
I'm also doing great, Ed. Now, Ed, tearing out and replacing concrete sounds intense, but I know there's a method behind the madness. Let's break it down. What's the process for tearing out and replacing old concrete?
It sounds funny when you say it sounds like a very difficult thing, but when you do it all the time, like me, it's pretty simple. But you have to make sure that you do it the right way. Tearing out concrete, it can be like depends on what exactly the project entails. If you are going to demolish a whole piece of concrete, or you're going to demolish a certain area on an actual piece of concrete. Okay, concrete, especially if it's done the right way, it has like rebar. It can have post tension cables. There are different ways that you can do concrete. Well, first, before you do any concrete, you have to ensure that you know what type of concrete you're tearing up to make sure that you don't get in trouble. Let's say you don't cut the wrong area of the concrete. If you're doing the whole concrete, it's easy because then you're gonna just break up everything. If you're doing a certain area, you want to make sure that you cut in the right way. If not, you can mess up the whole area when you're only doing a piece of it. Okay. You have to have the right equipment, which we have, by the way. You have the right equipment to do it. You have to learn and how to use that equipment. It's not just having the equipment because it can become dangerous. It's big equipment where you use either big machines like tractors to break big pieces of concrete, or saws where you can, if you don't do it the right way, it can be dangerous and it can be cut, you can be caught or things like that. So you have to know how to do it, which we have qualified people to do the job that we do. And tearing off concrete is not about just breaking it and picking it up. You have to know how to dispose the concrete, right? Because as we mentioned before, one of the things that we care about is the environment. So it's not just like putting concrete on your trash can, or you cannot just go dump it anywhere. There are certain places where you have to bring the concrete to be, especially if it can be recycled, which is it's a good thing. That if you recycle it, you're not just wasting stuff. You can reuse it later for different purposes. So yeah, there is a good process, and what I can tell you is that we expert on doing that. We do a lot of demolitions, like taking concrete out and putting concrete back in.
Now, Ed, what are the signs that the concrete needs to be replaced instead of repaired?
As well, many depending exactly on the project that you want to do. Maybe if you're doing like an addition in a house and you want to cut to add something else, it's different. But if you're talking about something simple, everyday that people things that happens all the time, if you see like a piece of concrete that is cracking, okay,
Mhm.
and I think we discussed this before in a previous episode. If it's like a hairline crack, it may not is not a structural issue, but you start seeing like cracks where you can start seeing the concrete moving and up and down between the cracks, or opening more than 1 inch, and then you having a structural issue in the concrete. Okay, which eventually, when the concrete, depending on how you use it, if the concrete start like getting in a different level one to another, it become a trip hazard. Which, I mean, actually we fix a lot of those because you don't want to have somebody tripping and having an accident and things like that. So if you see big cracks and the concrete is moving up and down, that's probably an indication that it may need to be turned up and put in a good foundation to put a new concrete on it.
Now, how long does the entire replacement process typically take?
Depending on the size, of course, right? But it depends on the size and depends on the area of the city that you work at. Just to give you an idea, a simple driveway for a two-car garage, okay, we can probably tear it down and put it back on the same day. We have the equipment to do that. However, there are certain cities that require or have certain rules. Like example, you may have to tear it up, prepare the area, and then request an inspection from the city because cities like to see if you're doing things right or wrong. And then you have to come back and do the pouring in a different day. So that takes you an additional day. But there are certain cities that they don't have as many requirements to do that type of job. And if it's a small area, we can tear it up and put it back on the same day. Now, if it's very large, I'm talking that example is a small driveway, let's say for a two-car garage. If it's a large piece of concrete, then you may require additional time because the larger, the more work.
Now, how does weather impact the curing process for fresh concrete? I'm sure it's a big factor.
It is. Concrete actually takes 28 days to cure, okay, regardless of the weather. Now, what weather affects the most is the process of putting the concrete on, okay? If it is too cold, you don't want to pour concrete in very low temperatures because then the concrete is a mix of cement, sand, water, rocks. It's a mix of different materials, which one of them is very important is water. So if it's too cold and you put in concrete, the water on the top may freeze, and later on that concrete may be peeling. So you have to make sure that you take care of those issues. Now, if it's too hot, the concrete may dry too fast and don't give you enough time to do a nice finish. You can still do it, but you want to have a nice concrete. You don't want to have just a piece of concrete. But I mean, in Texas, North Dallas, we don't get as low temperatures really, only a little bit in the winter, not even a month. So we have the ability to do concrete most of the time or most of the year. And I mean, we have done concrete at 110 degrees. See, because you need more people to make sure that you work fast enough to finish nicely the concrete, but it can be done. But the actual curing process, it takes 28 days. During the first week when you pour concrete, it's important to water the concrete because the rate of the concrete drying from the bottom to the top is different. And if it dries faster on the top than in the bottom, so you want to put some water to give some kind of the same rate of drying from the bottom to the top so you don't get hairline cracks. And during the first 10 days, you should not put any cars or anything heavy to allow the concrete to get some strength before you put something heavy on it.
Wow, Ed, that was super informative. Concrete replacement isn't just about tearing things up, it's an art and it's a science. Thanks for walking us through the process, and we will catch you on your next episode.
Thank you, Sophia, for having me, and I'm glad to give any information related to concrete to our listeners.
That's it for this episode of Ed the Concrete Man, because boring concrete is so last season. Want your space to shine and not crack? Call Ed at 972-292-8057 for a free in-home consultation, or visit csius.net. From driveways to patios and everything in between, if it's concrete, we've got you covered. Until next time, keep it smooth and let Ed handle the heavy stuff.